I can already tell you dogs are going to create problems. Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Welcome to Saturday Hodgepodge, which I talk about, things having to do with books, booktube, reading, etc. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about this week. For Saturday Hodgepodge, just, a few issues that came up. One kind of life issue is this is the, I guess officially the week in which I retire from teaching. I've been a public school teacher in Texas here for 31 years. And in that time, I've seen a lot of changes in Texas and in the small, relatively suburban community in which I live. Thursday, I had to go in and turn in my grades. I turned in my computer. I turned in my keys. Just kind of, not trying to impart significance to every single thing, but I have had those keys on my keychain for 31 years. Turned those in. I made sure my room was cleaned out. And then Friday we went and they had a drive-by kind of ceremony to honor retirees in an attempt to, stay COVID-19 safe and socially distant, which I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure why we're bothering, because when I turned in my grades yesterday, there were only about 8 people out of the 35 people I was around who were wearing a mask. But anyway, so there was a drive-by Friday to pick up, plaques, awards, things like that for retiring teachers. And then tomorrow, Sunday, I have the campus is doing a thing to honor retirees. And so I've been thinking a lot about retirement and change in my life because this is, one of the biggest changes I've had since my daughter was born, I guess, which was 22 years ago. This is probably the biggest change, and I'm not one of those people who handles change all that well, to be honest with you. So, as a matter of fact, I'm probably not handling change very well right now. I haven't trimmed my beard or cut my hair, or anyway, I'm already on that, old man downward hygiene slide, I guess. But also then just thinking about change. When I originally planned to retire, and I've been planning to retire this year for quite some time. When I originally planned my retirement, I imagined that, over this first summer of retirement, I would start thinking about what else I wanted to do. Some job inquiries, see if I could find a job doing something I really wanted to do. In part, retirement-wise, believe it or not, my retirement income, at least this year, is essentially going to be the same as my bring-home income last year. To give you, for those of you living outside the United States, I'll just tell you that the cost of my health insurance for myself and my family was so high that when that was changed, when I switched over to the retirement insurance program that I will be on in September, that when that changed, I saved literally thousands of dollars. Also, I'm no longer paying into teacher retirement. I'm no longer paying into my retirement investment account. And so before taxes, what it comes down to is that my income should seem fairly similar to what my income was before. But I'd planned on looking for and thinking about a second career or working, and now with all the uncertainty in the world because of COVID-19, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work out, and I'll be honest with you, I am worried about economic collapse and money, and is it foolish to retire at this point in time? But I'm going to go through with it anyway, and hope for the best, and look for some other form of income, hopefully, to in case there is, an even worse disaster around the corner. Sorry, not to be too grim. By the way, retirement for a teacher is weird. I'm retiring now, but I would have had the summer off here in the United States anyway. So I feel kind of retired right now, but I don't think I'll feel all the way retired until I know school has started again and I'm not going. That's when I think I will feel the real relief of retirement from education, assuming I don't get a job before now. One of the things on BookTube that happened, I think it was this week, it might have been last week, I can't remember, was that Shawn the Book Maniac kind of started the discussion about the posthumous publication of books by authors. He was really unhappy with a posthumously published Zelda Hush, a posthumously published novel by Barbara Pym, and he kind of had a video in which he, in a fun way, kind of went off on the idea of posthumously published novels. Matthew from Mayberry Book Club picked that up and made a whole video about it, in which he kind of, defended the idea of posthumously published novels. And I weighed in on the comments, I think, on Matthew's channel. From a historian's point of view, I want it all to be published. Letters, diaries, I want it all out there so that, historians, biographers can look through all that stuff. In terms of unpublished works or novels, I'm a little bit more circumspect, I guess. I would like to think that the posthumously published novel was at least almost complete. And I do worry, as in many cases, of author's family just kind of taking advantage of the opportunity to make money off of publishing works that were never intended for publication. And then when I think that, I'm like, well, that's like saying, hey, here's some buried treasure, don't use it. But anyway, got me thinking about posthumously published novels and books. And I thought, well, to me, the greatest example of both the value and the problem of posthumously publishing novels is the work of John Kennedy Toole. John Kennedy Toole is famous for publishing, or his most famous book is A Confederacy of Dunces. Toole committed suicide before this book was published. His mom was convinced it was a work of genius. She went around and eventually found a way to get it published. She found champions for the book, and she got it published, and I'm glad she did. I think it is a great comic novel. Not everybody shares that opinion, but I think it is a great comic novel. Now, I will say, in the world today, that its depiction of people with mental health challenges is not, politically correct by today's standards, but, we oftentimes, with older works of literature and fiction, have to kind of adjust the idea that people then didn't have the same sensibilities we did. So to me, this is an example, a great example of a posthumously published novel that I'm glad was published. But by the same token, after that, then his first novel, written when he was a very young man, called The Neon Bible, was also published in part to take advantage of the fame, the success, my cover's dusty, of A Confederacy of Dunces. His first novel that he wrote was published. And this is probably a book that shouldn't have been published. Other than making money for his family, I don't think it contributed very much of anything to his reputation as a writer, which, his reputation kind of gone. Toole, by the way, was kind of an obsession of mine for a while, and I actually read a biography of Toole also. But to me, that was an example of, both the beauty and the kind of horror, I think, of posthumously published novels in the short career of one person. This week in reading, I did finish Milan Kundera's Unbearable, Lightness of Being, which I was doing for my Maybe Midrash video and my Maybe Midrash reading for this month. I also started and have read, a little more than half of Cormac McCarthy's The Crossing. The Crossing is the second book. Here's the actual book cover. By the way, I'm one of those people who takes the dust jacket off when I'm reading the book. That's the second book in McCarthy's Border trilogy, and I said before that after her first reading, it was my favorite of the three books in the Border trilogy, and I will say the first 130 pages explain why it's my favorite, and apparently then I had amnesia about the next 60 or 70 pages, but we'll see. I will finish that up and do a review, kind of in the same style I did the review of All the Pretty Horses. I also, this month, am still planning on, at the very least, getting to Tar Baby by Toni Morrison, because I'm part of the Toni Morrison reading group, and I'm afraid my plans for reading Lakota America are probably going to have to wait. Reading is not going as fast as I wanted it to, and June looks like a really busy reading month. June looks like one of those months in which I have overcommitted because for some reason I forgot about the BookTube prize. Anyway, that will all work itself out. I also just wanted to mention real quickly here at the end, if anybody else is having this issue with YouTube, I noticed yesterday that when I go into YouTube Studio and I look at the comments, which I do because it helps me filter out comments that I haven't, or find comments I haven't responded to, and make sure that no comments got thrown into the spam folder for reasons that I don't understand. But anyway, when I looked at comments there, it was cutting off large chunks of the comments, and I was only getting partial comments. But then I noticed if I just clicked on the video and scrolled down, the whole comment was there. I wonder if anybody else has had that problem, and if if my response to you seemed like it didn't take into account everything that you said. I'm sorry, I may have only seen a part of your comment. Anyway, there you go. That's a pretty quick, I think, Saturday morning hodgepodge for today. Look forward to your comments, questions in the comment section down below, and as always, thank you for watching.